Oh man, look at this book. Look at this book. I'm going to do a review on a book that's very special to me. Look at this thing. This thing has been through moves and floods, crazy stuff, and it's still here. This is the first edition of this book. Now I have the second edition digitally, but I keep this basically as like a. I'm probably going to frame it or do something with it, but anyway. So this is The Secrets of Magic Revealed by Justin B. or Justin Bedwell. Okay. Now he went through Franz Barden's system, and then he devised his own contemporary way of hermetics that basically, according to him, gives you all the same powers and abilities as Barden's system, but it's not full of the same dogma as Barden's system, and it's much more practical. So you have the introduction. You have the thing about the calling. I've used this book and its teachings, okay, as a cornerstone, as a foundation to all the magic, all the ritual I do, just to give you a hint of how influential it's been to me. Okay, so this verse talks about the power of relaxation and how important it is to be able to relax. And that's the key to start. You have to learn how to relax. So it gives you steps to do that and to do what's called an anchor, what they call an NLP or neuro-linguistic programming. You create an anchor by doing a certain sign with your fingers once you reach that state, okay? And then you can bring yourself to that state without going through all the preliminary processes of the relaxation. So you do it a few times, and eventually your body and mind will click, and you get into that state when you use that certain mudra that you make up, whatever it is, with your fingers. And now you have the importance of introspection, okay? You need to know why you're doing what you're doing. Especially if you're a magician or you want to be one, or you have a certain goal and it seems like it's eluding you. You don't know why. It's not a coincidence, you know. Luck, the way people call about luck and things, it's not as simple as most people think. We make our own luck, okay? You can build it up over time. You can make thought forms that will build up the luck for you and make you luckier. But if you have blockages in your subconscious, in your inner being, it's going to keep you from what you think you really want, because part of you doesn't really want it, and that's why you don't have it. Or it believes you don't deserve it, and therefore you can't have it. Or it'll believe something like you'll get corrupt if you have it, or whatever lies or whatever BS beliefs you come up with growing up. It's the introspection will help you see where it's coming from, see what's really you, see how to change it, and if you want to change it, and you go from there. Okay. Now you go into integrating the different aspects of who you are. So there's a lot of talk about shadow work on the internet. It's very important. Now the shadow it's this part of you that you've rejected, that you pushed away, that you hid under a rug in your psyche. Most people never look at it. But the magician, if you really want to be powerful, if you really want to be the best you that you can be, you need to know your shadow. And you need to integrate it so that its power can become your power instead of it fighting against you. And this talks about that. Not only the shadow, but you have the different aspects of the psyche, the animus and the anima. So you have the male aspect, the masculine, and the feminine. All right, and then it gives you exercises having to do with that and how to integrate and accept those parts of yourself. Again, especially now, very important in today's society, as you see with all this PC talk about supposed toxic masculinity and feminism and all this other stuff. Once you integrate these aspects of yourself, you're going to see things in a lot different light. In a lot different of a light. All right, then you have other aspects, what's called the wise old man or the wise old woman aspect that he talks about integrating. And this is where maybe it's connected to your higher self and your higher intuition. And again, once you integrate these things, you can call this aspect to you, and they will come, and you can ask it to give you wisdom and insight to different problems you might have in your life, and eventually it's all going to be integrated. All right. Then he goes into what's called the Kahuna tradition, and they have the three selves, okay? And this is incorporating, acknowledging the three selves, which is the base self, the middle self, and the higher self, and how all three have to be in alignment to have your max power. A large part, and a reason why a lot of people don't have their full powers, because the base self, for whatever reason, thinks it's unworthy. And you have religions telling you you're unworthy, you have parents telling you you're unworthy, you have friends telling you you're unworthy, you have society telling you you're unworthy. And as you believe these things, and this base self believes it, it cannot connect to the higher self. Now the higher self's always there, and it's not judgmental on you, it's always there, waiting, and saying, I am here for you. You are worthy, you are loved. And if the base self doesn't believe it, or doesn't think it's worthy, it will cut itself off. It will cut itself off from that link. And you won't have the direction you really need for your goals. You won't have it for your life. Very important to get this together. And once all three are lined up, any magic that you do will be much more powerful, because all parts of you will be aligned. It will be synergistic, from the shadow integrated, and the anima, and the animus, and the wise old man or woman aspect, and the three selves. Then, after that's done, then he goes into concentration practices. So you have what's called single-pointed or one-pointed concentration. That's where you visualize or you think about something, and only that thing. And then when something else comes in your mind, which it will when you start, you go back to that thing. And when you're able to do it, he recommends start at 5 minutes a day and go to 15 minutes. The more you're able to do this, and the longer you can get at it, the more your magical memory will be better. If you happen to wind up on the astral plane, your ability to focus will be much better. The clarity that you'll have in your everyday life will be much better, will be much greater. Okay? And you'll be able to see things in life in a much different way with that clarity. And he also goes into what's called the no mind. And by going into the no mind and increasing the amount of minutes you can do with that, that's when you get universal information. You get disassociation with your body. All sorts of very interesting things start happening with your consciousness. Very powerful stuff. If you can do this for 30 minutes or more, either of these two things, you should have no trouble just going out of your body just like that and staying out pretty much for as long as you want in terms of consciousness. But yeah, there you go. I haven't made it to 30 minutes yet, but I've made it to a good amount, and just from the results alone that I've already had, it's been exponential compared to where I started at. You know, I probably had ADHD as well, added to all my other problems. When I talked about my other video and other things, problems with me, I probably had ADHD growing up, and until I started getting into meditation, I was finally able to calm down and not be so neurodivergent. All right. Now he talks about the three bodies: the mental body, the astral body, and the physical body, and what they are, and meditating upon them and feeling them. Very powerful stuff. And once you know the concentration, the super concentration, anything you focus on, or put your mind to focusing on, or put your will to focusing on, you'll be able to absorb the information that you get in a much clearer, undiluted way, and be able to feel it much more powerfully. And he talks about what consciousness is, and he goes into talking about possible methods to make it immortal. Because normally it's not, unfortunately. I hate to break it to you. But most consciousness is not immortal, not in this life. Think about it. Are you aware of what happened before you came here? No. Once you incarnated here, you have your now consciousness, but leaving, yeah, it's a little more complicated than that, with depending on what gods and goddesses you worship. If they claim you as their own, you can hang out with their heavens for a while, but you might be coming back around after that. It's not like you're there forever with them if you haven't finished evolving, if you haven't immortalized yourself, your consciousness. It just is what it is. But everything's like the soul remembers in its own way. That's why people have these past life recollections and things like that. But anyway, now he goes into the power of imagination. Now just imagining alone can open up doors to your psyche and magic. One of the key things I've learned is that fake it till you make it thing. So you do a spell for something, or you do a special prayer for something, and you want to feel and imagine that it's already happened. Okay? Because when you put something out in the universe, right? Now this is where the real karma is, okay? It's not like someone is judging you from the spot because you did this, now this is going to happen to you. No, it's cause and effect. So you walk off a building with no support on you, and gravity will make you fall. It's not some being judging you like, now you need to fall because you walked off the building. No, it's just you walked off the building. There's the law of gravity. And unless you're able to counter that law, you're going to fall. If you have support somehow underneath you, then you won't fall, as long as you don't lose your balance. Okay? But with cause and effect, if you put something out and you have a strong charge, a strong emotional charge for it, and you put it out in the universe, then the subconscious and the divine think that's what you want. So it'll bring more of that to you. Okay? So imagine that it's already happened when you have a result. If you imagine that it's not happened yet and it's going to happen sometime in the future, what happens is the divine says, okay, sometime in the future it'll happen. And who knows when that could be. Your subconscious works with symbols and it works with feelings. All right? It doesn't have linear time. It doesn't know linear time. So you say, like it's already happened. It's done now. If you do subliminals, you always do it in the present tense. You don't do it, oh, someday it'll happen. Well, then someday it could be 40 years from now. So you imagine it's already done. You see it as already done, and you feel how you would feel when it's already done. And if you can't do that, if you have resistance in that picture, in that feeling, you feel something's wrong, then you got a block having to do with whatever it is you wanted. And that's where this introspection comes in. That's why introspection is so darn important. Where is it? Introspection. First things first. You got to know where you're coming from. Otherwise, you could be running around circles and you realize that you're the one lighting things on fire. You're the one messing it up because you don't really want it. Some part of you doesn't want it. Okay. So now we have the imagination part, right? And then you go into, and he gives a couple different books that he recommends. Monsters and Magic Sticks. There's a bunch of stuff. He has it all in the second edition, which you can find on lulu.com right now still, I believe. Which I have it digitally, but it's easier for me to just record this way and show you through the book. And the first edition has the alchemy section, which I want to go over a bit, which is priceless in and of itself, which unfortunately he didn't include in the second edition for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, so now you go into imagining, feeling what the air element is, what fire is, what water feels like, what earth feels like. And they have different senses connected to what that does for you in terms of your astral senses. So fire is your vision. So if you're weak visualizing things, absorb the element of fire. And he shows you how to do that or be around it in your vision to get more comfortable with fire. Like envisioning volcanoes, feeling the heat, things like that. Air is like, let's say something is boiling. That steam, and you feel that steam above the pot boiling. That's how air is. It's this warm, moist. And that has to do with astral hearing. So if you weaken clear audience, you absorb more of the air element. Water is about feeling. So if you can't feel things astrally, like you can't feel, like, let's say you imagine yourself on a beach and you can't feel your toes in the sand. You imagine, ironically, being at the beach with water, going in the water, absorbing the water. And we have earth. That's about taste and smell. This one's harder to do. But astral taste and astral smell. And earth has other qualities as well, but I'm saying for astrally, this is what he talks about. So, and there is a sequence to this. You start with fire, like he lists. Fire, then you go to air, then you go to water, then eventually you go to earth. And this will help you know what they feel like, know what the elements feel like. And he had images originally here. Again, this book that I got, okay, look, it's a spine-covered book, okay? When I got this is only offered on like the one website called molochsorcery.com, which Moloch changed his stuff around a lot. Now it's like a blog. It's not even under that same name anymore. You can look it up on the internet yourself. But he had a lot of harder to get magical books, especially older Finbar books, which some I recommend are very good. And this came as the spine. A spiral notebook, basically. And there was supposed to be images here, but I got one of the preliminary, I guess, books, and it was a little off. The way he printed, it was his first thing. This is before Amazon's easy printing practices and the other websites that you can get now. This is years and years ago. You're talking 10 plus years ago I got this book. And I couldn't find the first edition anywhere I've looked. This is the only one. So I have this as like a souvenir. And look at that. Look at that flood line. It's from the storm and the flooding and several moves and all sorts of stuff. So you make certain cards representing the different elements. Fire would be the triangle, red triangle. Air being the blue circle. Water being the green crescent. And earth being either like a yellow square, which he mostly does, or like a brown square. And then you go through the different ones. You start with fire, and you go through, and you gain a certain mastery by feeling them. And eventually, you're going to feel it like get hotter in the room when you do fire. You're going to feel it get hotter. You're going to feel how air feels around you. When you start doing that, eventually he goes into actually absorbing it within your body and certain organs, and that will help repair and or enhance those organs and how they work, because certain organs, from an occult perspective, they have their own attributions. So, like your chest area, okay, is air. And think about it, your lungs, they take in air, right? So if you are able to absorb the air element into your lungs, They will help repair your lungs and help them work right. But everything that you absorb from the universe is very important with here. You only leave it in the body for a certain amount of time, or you leave it in your space for a certain amount of time. Because not only will other elementals from the astral plane be attracted to it, maybe start pulling pranks on you, and messing with you, and keeping you from your studies and keeping you from progressing, but it will create imbalances in your body. You don't want to be supercharged, overly charged. It's not good for your nervous system. It's not good for your energy system. So he talks about those things. Okay. Then he gives some meditations, like I said before, of getting more comfortable with the elements if you're having trouble getting close to the element, of feeling it, as with the other meditations. He talks about the balance of it. Then he goes into karma, what that really is. Cause and effect, not how it's discussed in Hinduism, like, oh, well, you did this and now you have to suffer this in another life. No. A lot of it, too, is your own. If you have guilt over something, you'll keep that karma with you. You will keep that effect with you. But if you let it go, if you forgive yourself and or the person, it has nothing to stick to. But that's something I just found with that. But that's what he talks about. What really is just cause and effect. That there's no astral police force. There's no like angels standing there just ready to just round up people. If that was the case, then a lot of corrupt people would every time they would do something, it would just right away it would happen. So talks about the power of a name. Once you have the name of something, you can have power over it. You can call it an evocation, or you can bring its power within yourself with invocation. Okay? That's also why introspection is very important. Know what's going on with you. What are the names of the things that are holding you back? If you know what the name is, you can banish it, or bring it to you, or absorb it, or change it. It talks about specifically power in itself. How to channel the power into your body, different things, ways to do it, and how to load talismans with just the vital power of the universe. And the great amount of mastery you can get just from this alone, just from mastering the vital force alone and clothing it within the qualities that you want, you can do amazing things. Now we go into advanced magical training. We have the sun and moon magic. Okay, so this is yin and yang energies, and these energies are very powerful and they creep up on you, and he talks about that. He talks about the dangers of leaving it there and how he almost had a slight nervous breakdown because he left the energy in too long. And then, so these are ways to take it slow, shows you what they can do, and then how to, again, once you feel the energy and you've absorbed some of it for a bit, then you need to release it. You need to get rid of that extra energy. So you need to get rid of that yang. Take a nice cold shower. Things like that. But when you combine both together, you get what's called a magnetic vault, according to Barden. And when you combine mastery of yin and yang, they both work together to dramatically increase your power of manifestation and the authority that you have within the cosmic hierarchy and how spirits will relate to you. You may be surprised that they will see you in a different light once you master these energies or start mastering these energies. Then he goes into the Akasha. So there's a lot of talk on the internet with a lot of other sorcerers about the void, okay? But the Akasha isn't like the void, right? Because the void, to a lot of those other sorcerers, has beings in it. Okay, it has. And there's different types of void supposedly, but the Akasha is like the absence of qualities. But whatever you put in the Akasha, it's like the birthing mechanism for the qualities that you want to bring about, whether that's within yourself, whether that is within the greater universe, whether that is, immediate, whatever. And when you master this, mastery of the other elements and everything else comes as you master this, because this is the pre-materia. This is the first cause, basically. When you put something in the Akasha with enough force and enough momentum and power behind it, impetus behind it, it has no choice but to eventually manifest. First in the mental, then in the astral, and then eventually the physical. So he talks about how to create the card stock for the Akasha and start working with the Akasha and mastering it. Okay. Now we have the Adept Magical Training, and this is where he goes into the Kundalini. Now, he more, as a magician, he serves the light. So for other magicians that are into the darkness and Universe B, you can just take these instructions that he gives, I would assume, and instead of bringing the light down to cleanse the chakras like he talks about, you would use your force of darkness from the Universe B. That's how I would assume you would do it. I don't know what kind of results you would get. I have not been brave enough to do that because I know a lot of people like to throw around chaos and be like, everything is chaos and came from chaos. But the Akasha is not chaos. It has no qualities. So there was no quality. So there was no chaos, at least in my unverified personal gnosis. There was nothing. There was nothingness. And nothingness of the Akasha is not chaos. Chaos is a quality. Okay? But anyway. But if you want to go and use Universe B instead of Universe A, instead of the Akashic light, basically, that he's talking about, you're free to do that and see what kind of results you get. Like I said, I have not been brave enough to mess with that because even when I evoke or invoke beings of chaos, it only imbalances things. It imbalances my energy for a bit and until I banish that energy again. And I don't want the Kundalini, me awakening that under more chaos than it needs to be. Because if you have blocks and you have a lot of problems in your psyche and complexes, if you awaken the Kundalini, you start messing with chakras, it's going to mess with you. You're going to have a rough ride. I'm talking from personal experience. You're going to have a very rough ride. It's going to keep pushing against that blockage within your energy body, within your physical body. Painful, could be scary. He talks about it, but if you do this in the way he's saying to do, you should be okay, especially if you've mastered the other techniques and have done the alchemy from the stuff in here. It's going to make things much more smoother for you. But if you got fears and phobias, do not mess with this. You have to get that stuff under control. You have to, because otherwise this will augment this. Okay, when you start opening and cleansing the chakras and everything like that, you will open up vortexes of energy that you never felt before. Okay, it's going to augment everything that you're already feeling. So if you have some fear, it's going to be a lot more fear, right? And it could be dangerous. It could be very dangerous. People have had psychotic breaks or died, okay? Because the energy is not to be played with. It is not a joke. But the way he presents it in here, it's the safest way I've ever seen. And when I've done it this way, it has been a smoother ride. Now, he talks about temporarily refraining from any sex or orgasm because you are building up this life force charge, okay? Now, if you do, he recommends you actually focus on the chakra you're working on during orgasm to supercharge that chakra, so that you stay abreast of the work. You're not knocked back away from it, because it's going to help augment your manifestation of opening the chakras, cleansing the chakras, empowering that, and raising the kundalini. It's only for a certain amount of time, and it will lead, like he says, to permanent results. This exercise alone is the key to a tremendous amount of power and control over your entire being. Like I said, it's not a joke. It's not fluff. If you do these exercises, you're going to notice results. Even if what she recommends to do for the rest of your life, when you have sex, you do orgasm, you focus on a certain chakra that you're working on, it will supercharge that chakra. Instead of feeling like, especially as a guy, instead of feeling maybe depleted like most other guys do, you're going to feel energized if you do that right. It's going to keep a lot of that energy within you and empower that chakra. But if you got blocks and you go empower that chakra, it's going to keep pushing against that resistance. And if it's trauma's blocking it, whatever it is, it's going to come to the surface. And that's why you need to get your shit. You need to get it in gear. But very powerful stuff. All right. There it is, now going into the specifics. Cleansing the chakras, talking about where they're located, basically. How to cleanse it. The way to do it. You don't do more than one chakra a day, he recommends. You do only the first 6 the first time. You wait a few days to see how you're feeling. When I started this, I was having weird dreams. Like, for instance, when I was working on the sexual chakra, which has to do with the water element, I was having stuff shown about the sea and sea creatures, and it was a little unnerving because to add insult to the other injuries and things that happened to me, I almost drowned when I was 7. So I had a fear of water until much later. I didn't learn to swim until I was much older. And then a fear of the open sea. Not a phobia per se, but like, I know there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm not trying to go into the open sea unnecessarily. I have noticed, though, if I invoke or evoke Poseidon's powers, a lot of that fear goes away, even in meditation. Then the control of the water and things around me, and that might be a way for some of you who might have a fear of water to, that's a hint from me to try out for yourself, see how that works. I've used that as well to help fishing before, but anyway, to pull in fish when there was no fish happening. But anyway. So there you go. Now you have activating the chakras. After they're cleansed, now you have the activating of them. And you're going to feel them. It's not going to be something in your mind that, oh, maybe I feel something. No, you're going to feel them. Like, it's going to be powerful. It'll be no doubt. Like, there'll be no doubt in your mind. Because it's going to feel like a real force. When I started doing serious meditations, okay, with the chakras and everything, I felt like someone was literally in the room with me tapping on my third eye. So much so that when I opened my eyes, I looked up to see if anyone was there pulling pranks on me. Like, I could feel like physical tapping, hard tapping. And it was just the energy once I connected. And then he goes into, okay, raising it. Once you've cleansed and purified the chakras, so now you don't have the trauma stuck in there, you don't have the blocks, then you can more safely raise it. And once you do, buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye. You'll come back, but you'll go bye-bye for a while. And who knows what kind of trip. If you've ever taken acid or mushroom trips or things like that, this is on a whole nother level. And it's helps enlighten you and empower you and help with longevity and health and all sorts of crazy cool stuff. Now, once you've raised your kundalini, now he talks about manifesting in a certain way, specifically. using the magic circle, visualizing what you want, seeing it as there, having that feeling of it being there, empowering it, and then making it disappear and closing the circle. And then dissipating the circle. Then he goes into things about words of power and charging the talismans. Then he goes into astral projection, which is be much easier once Kundalini is going and your chakras are going. And method of astral projection. Then he goes into practical evocation. So he has two sets of this. So he has daily rituals that you do. Oh, becoming the god. Oh, that's much later. How did that get in there? Oops. Yeah, this book, look. So, to give you an idea of how much I've used these, here, look, I taped this together all the time. He has the different planetary energies and how you can evoke them and what they do. And that's the other part. It's somewhere in this. After you master the elements, then you master the planetary energies as well, and they'll have their own, qualities. Like with Luna, that works with dreams and attraction and sympathy and magic in general and manifestation. So let's say you want to learn to lucid dream, and you're having trouble. You absorb the power of Luna or the moon, and when you actually can absorb it, and you put the qualities and you say what you want, and you imagine with those qualities that you can easily dream and remember your dreams and lucid dream, you'd be surprised what happens. Mercury, its qualities, Venus, Sol, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Right? Now, on top of those, he has daily evocations. So to all the darker mages out there, if you're not comfortable with these Kabbalistic energies, because a lot of them are Kabbalistic or planetary energies that are known more having to do with the light side, I guess, but no less powerful. These are very, very powerful spirits, and like he says in the book, these lead, if you do these rituals every day, you're going to see things in your life happen, as if by coincidence, he says, like even visions, like when you evoke them, they're very powerful, these spirits. Okay. There's no joke. This is real powerful magic he has in here. It's real powerful stuff. But if you're uncomfortable with these energies, you can figure out from your own pantheon that you want, okay, what's the head of the pantheon, and then what other ones in that pantheon have to do with these qualities that you want, and you make up your own daily evocations. That's the way you could do it. So if you're into Kabbalistic magic and you look up, okay, what's the sphere having to do with this, with these powers? On top of that, he has the actual just names of power from all sorts of different ones, and talks about a good meditation you can do to invoke the powers and to increase the vibratory rate of your own astral body through these powers, or any powers you invoke. Obviously, this is another Kabbalistic one, a few Kabbalistic ones, but then you have other ones not so Kabbalistic, like Dionysus and Osiris and Pan. Okay. And you have different planetary ones, like Dajin, which is a fire spirit, right? Sasan, a couple different angels, a couple different genies. This guy's a very powerful earth elemental gnome, King Gob. Very good to call upon, like I said, for all these different things, but even just call upon him when things were too chaotic for me. He can help balance the elements within you real quick, in my experience. Real quick. Give you wisdom about things. Anyway, this shows you, okay, here's these names, and here's their offices. Here's how they can help you. Boom. And then he has other ones having to do with the different planetary energies, not just that. So now you have the moon. and those different names and what they can do for you. And for Mercury, and for Venus, and all that other stuff. Okay, so you have the practical invocations every day. Now, here's where it all comes to a head, right? Becoming a god. This is like the most unforgivable sin, right, of Lucifer. Like, I will be his god and whatnot. Little do they know that we're all evolving to become like God. We're supposed to. We're supposed to be our own gods and goddesses. Eventually. How we get there is how we get there, but magic is a way to get there. Especially structured magic like this, very quick. And he gives an example using the Yod He Vav He, which again is Kabbalistic, but you don't have to do that. And I think he gives an example how to do it with any pagan religion that you follow, or other spirits you follow. He gives you an example here. We can use the Greek, Egyptian, or Babylonian gods. Says that they're great for this type of exercise as well. So he gives one method there, and then another method having to do with the more pagan type style, if you want. Okay. Then you have different scripts. So Barden in his book, in the Franz Barden Initiation and Hermetic System, he recommends certain scripts at night. So you set up, you make your own beads, and then you put them on a little string. And as you go to bed, you pull each bead, and you keep pulling them as you say whatever affirmation you want. And you do it in the present tense. So he has scripts to do. What you can do and what I've done that's much easier, more streamlined for most people, is, let's say you pick this, you make sure you're comfortable with what these things are, and then you can record it. Most phones have a voice recorder, and you can put it on loop, and you listen to it really low while you're sleeping. If you're sleeping with a significant other, you can, and you don't want them to listen to this or whatever, you could possibly do headphones at other times, or take naps. Say when you're taking a nap for lunchtime, and you listen to it on loop, and that will help put it into your subconscious. And once your subconscious is on board, then it will help for you to see these things as real in your life. So whatever your subconscious believes, it has the tendency, and its job is to prove it to you in the outside world. So might as well program it for things you really want outwardly. Is that, oops, how'd that get in there? He talks about spirits and the evolution of spirits, and how spirits can become gods and gods can become spirits depending on how much energy is given unto them and how much attention, and different things and how they evolve a little bit, and how imagination works with that. He talks about a bit of communication, how they may communicate to you. Talking about payment to the spirits, paying them for helping you out, just as like, you might have friends that you really like, but you're not going to expect them to do everything for you for free, you know what I mean? Like, there's always some type of exchange, not saying that you're paying them money to help you with that, whatever. Maybe you want to buy them lunch because they helped you out with, building your fence, or cook them a nice dinner, or whatever. You want to help them out even as they've helped you out. It's about faking it till you make it. And here's some more stuff about the powers. I said these planetary energies, the powers, and then you go into the divine light and names for the divine light, and how this represents all powers and abilities, because this has to do with the Akasha. You can put whatever you want in there. This might take longer, he says, and in my experience, than using a planetary energy, but the Akasha will stay. So the other stuff might fade over time, right? Everything outside of the source eventually fades, right? People fade, right? Like, eventually people pass on. unless you're one of those immortals, but they have immortalized themselves using the Akashic principles, whether they know it or not. Like, that's how they've used it, because they've used a quality of immortality, which isn't within these. Long life is, but so is aging. Saturn. Now he goes into troubleshooting things that might come up. People have asked him on his blog, because a lot of this, he had a blog for a long time. He has another blog out. I think it's called. Trying to remember the name of it right now. Haven't looked at it in a while. And eventually, he has also, that he put on his blog. Oh, this is the ERO formula. This is how everything kind of follows the same formula. That's what he was saying. And the ERO represents the three selves as well. Yeah, the base self, the middle self, and the high self, right? One of those mixed, but basically you have the beginning, the thriving, and then the end. But then it always goes back to a beginning. There's a new beginning. There's always a new beginning. It's the beast that eats its own tail. Talks about the micro and the macrocosm. Different sites of power you can do with magic at the woods and things like that. Evolution of the species. So this is like not sex magic, like, oh, I want to do sex magic so I can get this car. No. This is, instead of just having animalistic sex and unprotected sex where it's unplanned child, this is consciously creating the child. This is absorbing divine powers with the qualities that you want. And when the spirit comes into the fetus with these energies around, it's going to attract something with those qualities. The man invoke a god of, he gives examples, invoke a god of strength, wisdom, or enlightenment, and the woman to evoke a goddess of love, compassion, beauty, or magic. When you can do this, and you make a child this way, if you're willing to make a child this way, they're going to be a super being compared to what normally happens. It'll help the whole species evolve. Powerful, serious stuff. This is the thorough review. I don't have children yet, but when it comes time for that, bet your ass I'm doing that. This is talking about what it means to be a magician, what he believes it means, the final word with stuff. But there's an alchemy section too, and then he has a bibliography of different books. Grimoire of Shadows, that's a good book. It has its own magical system, a little different. It's more closer to like Wicca type training. Fundamentals of Hawaiian Mysticism. This goes into like the Hunas and the three cells, things like that. There's Initiation into Hermetics by Franz Barden. I'll do a review on that another time, but this is where this system that this book, everything is stemmed from, is this book, is Initiation into Hermetics by Justin going through Franz Barden's system in its own. I got another book, St. John by Aleister Crowley. Man and Its Symbols by Carl Jung. These are all recommendations of his. Mimetic Magic, I have that book. That's an interesting one too. Talk about the memes on the internet, how they grow and become their own thing. Think about that. You could do that with magic, right? Or use it with magic. Miracle of New Avatar Power. I've used this rituals in this book for very fast manifestations. Has its own system of of evocation, not of base training like this book. But if you're a newbie and you want help manifesting stuff while you're going through your training to kind of prove that this is all worth it, that's a great book. Modern Magic by Donald Craig. That's another good one with different exercises done in a different way, doing it in a Golden Dawn style. Not really Hermetics per se, a Golden Dawn style. But it has some, I'd say, elemental exercise in it, so kind of like Hermetics. It's like a mix. He's a little dogmatic, though, Donald. Monsters and Magic Sticks, Planetary Magic. He recommends this one is great. Has a lot of correspondences, kind of like Aleister Crowley's 777 book. Prometheus Rising by Anton Wilson, Robert Anton Wilson. He likes a lot of his stuff. Secrets of Ancient Magic, Path of the Goddess by Nineveh Shadrach. I've heard and had some correspondence with Nineveh before. He's very heavily into like the Jinn current. So if you're into Jinn magic, that's a good one. But he does more like light stuff. He might know some darker stuff, but he's not sharing it. Undoing Yourself with Energized Meditation, Other Devices. This is great. Like he says, the Holy Grail of Deprogramming. I was doing some exercises from this for a while. I wasn't able to stick to it at the time. I went through a lot of moves, a lot of different things happened, but while I was doing it, I had great progress, and you have deep relaxation, a whole bunch of different things. A whole bunch of cool different things that'll help you kind of get through your preliminary stuff before you start messing with the Kundalini and chakras more. He has different topics from his blog with this one. I gotta see if he has it in the second edition, if he has the topics of blogs. I know, unfortunately, he doesn't have the alchemy section, which we're gonna get into. I gotta find it. It's here somewhere. This is a tome, man. This is a good tome. Yeah, none of it's really filler. Talks about his first experiences using the LBRP and the BRH, opening by Watchtower. But that he didn't do it first, I don't think. And he talks about that and his experiences with the angels that came. A few different things that happened with the different Kabbalistic angels, who apparently do not serve the Christian God, ironically. Like Michael will laugh in your face if you ask him if he serves the Christian God. But yeah. Talks about what's called magical failure, and the thing is, magic has to work. It's part of how the system. The system laid out by the source or whatever. Like it always does work, but it might not work how you want. Like I said, if you have a petition that you want going out, but then you have doubt, it starts pulling it back. So it is doing what it's supposed to do, but you're not allowing it to fully manifest. So the magic is working. It always works. It has to. It's like gravity. Like gravity just doesn't not work unless you specifically go against it. Okay, now we go into the alchemy. Okay. And there's different techniques he goes into. Now this is specifically to help immortalize your consciousness, supposedly with astral immortality and or physical, he says. You can choose what you want as your own God, as your own divine being. Okay? But you got to do the work. It's not like other religions where they're just like, okay, this person did all it for you, and all you got to do is believe and everything's fine. And how's that working? I see a lot of people who are sick and hurting, even in those religions and things. They just got sicker and sicker. They weren't helped. They weren't helped by their belief in that God because they didn't believe in themselves. God helps those who help themselves, right? That's what I've heard that expression too. So, Secrets of the Golden Flower this is the first method he talks about, and that's from the book with Carl Jung as the commentary for that book, The Secrets of the Golden Flower. And this is a Taoist meditation. And he breaks it down how to do it. This is method 1. Now, for those on the shadow path or the vampiric path, I'm going to warn you about doing this meditation because it's designed, okay, to turn your shadow self into a being of light, which acts like a battery and helps you create another perfect, like I said, crystallize into a perfect body of light around your body. You absorb the light into yourself from the top of your head all the way down into your groin area. Eventually, it's going to act like a pressure cooker, right? It's going to build up and build up and build up with you not dissipating it. If you're going to have sex, you got to wait at least a few hours, ideally, before you release, okay? Because otherwise, it's going to be hard to build that charge because you keep dissipating the charge every time you're orgasming and, or, you know. So, you got to let it sit a little bit there and work in your system, okay? It's going to be in that groin area, whether you're a man, woman, in between, whatever, okay? You got a physical body, you're a human being, whatever. So you're going to let it sit there, and eventually it's going to be like a pressure cooker. It's going to want to go up from that pressure. It's going to want to go up and leave your head, but you're going to redirect it down, like it's going to come up, like, want to come up out of your head, so you're going to feel like kind of come up your spine, but with a breath and controlled will, because energy flows where the mind goes, you're going to push it back down, and it's going to create what they call in Qigong the microcosmic orbit, going from the front and in the back, and it's going to be like this wheel of light kind of flowing through you, and it's going to accumulate over time. And he talks about some of the side effects that you might get in terms of you know, certain things from your past and your shadow are going to come up, and you're going to have to deal with them. But then it's going to eventually integrate into your being, and it's going to change that darker aspect of your soul into a body of light, a brilliant light-filled being, But if you're on the vampiric path and you're accentuating the shadow, or you're on a darker spiritual path, this is not going to, I don't think it's going to work for you. I think it's going to counteract. You're not going to want to vampirize anymore. You're not going to want to. So maybe there's a way to, instead of having that light come in, maybe you could use it with universe B energy, like the Kundalini. I don't know. I haven't tried it. And then maybe that will just fuel, and you'll have a darker shadow aspect of you integrated instead of the being of light, because you're not drawing in light, you're drawing in the darkness. And darkness, obviously, in itself is not bad. The night isn't bad. But yeah, I don't know how that would happen. Method 2 has to do more with different elements, the elements of air, earth, fire, water, crystallizing them on the astral and things like that. All right, goes in a different way. Then different instructions on that, kind of what you want to feel on the astral plane, things like that. Just this part about talking, where is it, about the sun? I've done this, just the solar part of this alone, I felt immediate difference. Immediately difference. Better health, and that feeling of invulnerability. Like if there was chaos around me, if there was, unsuredness, worry, fear, gets all that away. Because soul is very good at banishing harmful energies. I've used soul to banish things like that. Things messing with me in my astral, trying to mess with me while I'm sleeping. I do that, they go away real quick. I just say the name astrally and visualize it all through my being. They do not like solar energy on the astral plane. Very good at banishing unwanted energies, even within yourself. So, then he goes in the third method. And then he has a fourth method. If you can find the first edition of this book, this alone is worth its weight in gold. and you're really interested in the alchemy, because unfortunately the second edition doesn't have this alchemy, but it has the Kundalini thing and an expanded version of the Kundalini, which can give you all these things, as he says, anyway. You know, it can immortalize you, can make you long-lived, can give you vast magical powers and abilities, all sorts of cool stuff. Then he has some more stuff about his vlog, stuff about talking about the ego. So I'm going to talk real with the ego thing, right? So there's a lot of people on the internet. They say, "Oh, the ego is evil. The ego is the enemy." So here's what the ego really is, okay? It's who you are. If you get rid of your ego totally, you will be a vegetable. You don't want to get rid of your ego. You want to refine your ego. You want to make it better and work for you. So it's hang-ups of who you used to think you were, those hang-ups, those traumas that can't stop you from being better. They can't stop you from living your best life. They can't stop you from the blessings that the universe wants to give you. They can't stop you from the love. They can't stop you from the wealth. They can't stop you from feeling joy and peace and being powerful. That's another lie, that power corrupts. No, power augments. It augments what's already there. So if you have weaknesses, if you got addictions and you have more power, you're going to have easier way to have more things to addict you, okay? Same thing with money, right? They think, oh, they say the love of money is the root of all evil, right? There's a lot of people that do horrible things, and there's nothing to do with money. Money isn't involved at all, okay? Money is augmenter too. So if you have problems spending, and you got addictions, you have serious issues you need to deal with, if you have more money and you have more freedom, then you have more power to get those things easier. And so it creates a bigger temptation for you. But if you're good in yourself and you've done your shadow work, then you're fine. Then actually you can use the money to enhance the life of other people, enhance the life of your friends and yourself and the entire human race. You can use it to invest in new technologies and all sorts of things, and charities, all sorts of things that if you were struggling before with money, you don't have the energy or the power to help. So your ego, getting back to that, your ego, it's important. It's about who you are. As a magician, you want to build up your ego, but you want to refine it. You want to make it ideally permanent. You don't want to get rid of it. That's part of who you are. It's the I in you. Like, if you lose your ego totally, you're going to be a vegetable. You might as well be in a coma. People are going to be having to feed you. You could be drooling all over it. Like, people say it. Oh, I want to get rid of my ego. Don't say that. Don't say that to the universe. Don't say that to the universe, because the universe doesn't care in that way. It's cause and effect. So be careful what you say. Be careful what you wish for, especially if you're a magician, because your powers of concentration and your will, if you direct that to something and you put big force into that, it's going to bring it to you much faster and in a much more powerful way than an average human being. Doing concentration exercises and things like that, it's the equivalent of having a magnifying glass, right, without the sun's rays. To hone it, right? You have a magnifying glass, and normally it's not burning things, right? But what happens? What happens when you tilt it just right and you get the beam, you get that laser? You can start fires with that. Well, think about your mind. Think about if you come from ADHD, neurodivergence, you can't concentrate on things for more than a few seconds, and you build up your concentration and your mental power to concentrate 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 30 minutes at a time, your mind and your will is way more powerful, exponentially more powerful than it was before. Even now with the things, I have to be careful what I say. I have to be careful what I say with intention. Because if I pay a little bit of attention, I don't have to do crazy rituals. I don't have to do that anymore with the alchemy that I've done. I don't. As long as there aren't any subconscious blocks in there, Stuff manifests fast for me. So I got to be positive. I can't be too negative. It won't let me. The universe won't let me. If I'm too negative too long, bad things happen. Real bad things. And I don't want to be negative. I don't have to be. You know. If electronics, malfunction around me, if my um, I get too agitated, things like that, like things don't work right. So I got to be on my best behavior so that they do continue to work right. But yeah, your ego is very important. You just got to refine it. You know, don't let your hang-ups control you. Don't let your fear control you. Don't let anyone else control you in your life or be a tyrant over you. Don't do it. Anyway, I think that's it for this review. It's over an hour something, but I think I broke it down pretty well. Considering. Here's some of the symbols. See, when he printed it out, this was in the back of the book. It's a little discombobulated. It was his first time printing, but the information's gold. You can take this and run with it, whatever system you want to use, because once you have the powers of concentration and the elements and things like that under your control, like, you can break things down. You can look at a spirit eventually and be like, okay, it's mostly composed of this element, and this is what it is, and despite what anybody says what the spirit is, like, you'll just be able to sense it. You'll know. You'll feel it. You know. Powerful stuff. So yeah, there you go. What I call the mother lode. Secrets of Magic Revealed by Justin B. It's like I said, the second edition is on Lulu.com. I don't. I didn't see the first edition. The first edition has the alchemy, unfortunately. That's why I gotta frame this baby and hermetically seal it. This is like treasure. This is like an ancient treasure. Anybody ever watch Raiders of the Lost Ark? You know, Indiana Jones. This is like something he would unearth from like an ancient temple. The way the pages are and everything. It is. It's an ancient treasure, in a way. So there you go. Get at least the second edition. It has the Kundalini stuff in it. It doesn't have that alchemy with the methods in the back I talk about, but it's well worth it. Later.